Hi, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician. It's Friday, and that's when I do my Q&As. So this week seems to whiz by, but here we are again. So I've got quite a few questions. There was also, last Q&A, I did actually sort of ask you guys a bit of a question about what I should do with the channel and so on, and many of you replied on the next video I did, which is about the viola that I'm making. So I will just briefly touch on that again as we go, but let's start with some of the sort of Q&A types of questions that came in. So on a video, where are we? It was number 53, rough carving, violin arching. GTR Boy 77 asked, how wide is that first big gouge? It looks about 2 inches or 50 mil. It was absolutely massive, but it was actually 1 3/4 inches. Although, as I put in a comment, I replied to him. It does actually look like I'm using sort of a spade on the video, but no, 1 3/4 inches. Yeah. Right, let's have a look at some of the questions that came in on the 165 making a 15-inch viola part 6, some of which were replies to the comments I made on the Q&A as well. Yeah, there's just a lot of very kind comments from you guys, but I'll not that I don't appreciate them, but it sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet. I should just go straight for the questions, if that's okay. SSB 73Q. I like using the foam sanding pads. The foam sanding pad spreads the sanding pressure over a larger area than simply using sanding paper. I also use Crystal Lac Clear Amber Tone sanding sealer on the top plate and finish using 3000 grit foam sanding pads. Must admit, I've not used foam sanding pads in this situation, and I wasn't actually aware that they came in at such a fine grit. I think I'm going to have a look at that. That does sound interesting, because what I did say in the video is I tend to, plane, gouge, then, and scrape finally, scrape, and then I go literally from scraping to 600 grit, because I know this sounds a bit strange, but I actually want to leave, well, first of all, I want to leave some of the shape and definition that I put into it. I don't want that sort of being squashed out, flattened out by using too much sandpaper. But secondly, I want there to be gouge marks and plane marks. I want there to be little dings and so on. And the video I'm going to do shortly after this one is just bringing you up to date on the viola making, which is basically finishing, and I go through the whole finishing process in some detail, and you'll see that those, for me, those lines, those marks, those dings, the where you use the thumb plane, they add real character to how the thing looks, and they also pick up some of the different colors in the varnish in a way which makes a really authentic kind of old look to something without doing any distressing. So that's why I go straight from literally straight from the scrape to the 600 and then 800. I don't generally go any finer than 800, because I find that even with 600, you're not seeing sanding marks. So 800 is fine as far as I'm concerned. Andrew Parrish 437 did put aside 2 hours this afternoon to sharpen my gouges. Andrew, either you've got a lot of gouges, or you were daydreaming, or you next, because I'm hoping to bump into Andrew fairly soon. I think we should have a chat about sharpening, because I'm more sort of 2 minutes per gouge kind of person myself. How about so Michelle K5789? How about a guitar making series? Okay, I'm a violin maker. It probably would be really interesting, and I'm sure I'd get big numbers of people watching, far more than watch violin making, but I don't do this to make money. I'm not entirely sure why I do these videos sometimes. I mean, I've got some absolutely wonderful Patreons who pay me an amount. The sum total of money I've made from all of these videos on YouTube so far is about £230. That's all time. That's the all-time payment I've received. So yeah, it's better than a slap in the face with a wet fish, but it's not going to pay for me to just make videos. So how about a guitar making series? Yep, and basically there are guitar makers out there who can do a far better job than I. I'm going to stick to doing stuff that I know, and as I said last time, dropping in little bits of things that are my fascinations at the moment. So that's where I'm going on this. The Patreons, I get, you know, they pay a certain amount of money. I've got quite a few, well, what I consider to be quite a few of them now, and they're mightily appreciated. But it's a two-way deal, because the Patreons are all in a raffle. At the end of this year, I will be, one of my Patreons will get one of my handmade violins, and that's my plan with the Patreons each year, is to do that. So if you want to be part of that, then yeah, become a Patreon, and basically every I've done it in pounds. I think every pound equals one entry in the raffle, you know, for the year. So yeah, if you're interested in that, please do. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so guitar making series, it's a fine idea, but it's not what I'm about on this channel, really. A question from Michelle K5789: has starting to make more videos increased your client base and wait list? Well, this actually sort of ties in with that last question, doesn't it? Or more accurately, with my answer. I have got a waiting list now, and a couple of years ago I didn't have, and it's been slowly picking up, and it's now at the point where, you know, I don't have a number of violins to do sort of compare and contrast type of videos, because people buy them all. Now, has making these videos increased the client base? I did actually send a reply to Michelle K, which I'm sure the videos have, they're all part of it, but I mean, you know, I play professionally, and quite regularly people will come to me and say, that was a fantastic sounding violin, you know, and I hear you're a maker, blah 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 blah, and I've had quite a few customers that come to me that way. Also, there's word of mouth. You know, there is the web footprint, but you know, these videos tend to appeal more to people who want to make a violin, and so clearly they're less likely to be in the market to buy one, although it has happened. So I mean, also I do a monthly radio show called the Folk Fiddle Show on Folk Friday Radio. I probably should put a link in the comments, in the description below, so that you can find that. And that, you know, the sort of just my footprint online, playing professionally, sessions, all those sort of things, word of mouth. I also got you know, a couple of fairly well-known folk musicians now who do use my instruments. So it all kind of ties in together. I mean, I know this is quite an interesting one, because a lot of people do ask, you know, how am I going to sell this violin that I've just made? And there's no straightforward answer to that. I mean, I've been wondering if we couldn't collectively put together a sort of a website, which, you know, you amateur makers, we kind of all pool our stuff on that, so people could come to that and see these kind of early instruments in people's careers, these esoteric instruments, some of them are, and actually, you know, potentially get a real bargain, get a wonderful instrument for a modest price. Maybe that's something we ought to discuss. If you're not part of the Violin Making discussion group on Facebook, I'll put a link to that as well below. Click on that link, and if you have anything violin based in your Facebook profile, I shall probably accept you, basically. But if all you post is political stuff and there's nothing to do with violins there, then I'm afraid you probably won't be let into the group. Sorry, just being honest. Right, moving along. Brian Timmons, TX. Hi Graham, great to see this viola coming along. Well, the viola is now finished, and I mean, probably when you see this, that there'll be videos out for that already. But if not, hang on. Yeah, it's finished. Very happy with it. Sounds nice, actually. Really happy with it. Should I play something quickly? I know this isn't normal Q&A and I haven't got a shoulder rest on it. So yeah, I'm really pleased with it. It's good. It's a nice instrument. Yeah, so Brian Timmons TX goes on to say, I have a question on the finish you plan to do with it. Since the pear wood is such a distinct colour compared to the top, will the top be coloured to match? Or will the viola simply have a two-tone natural appearance? Watch the video about the finishing. They end up being, I think, complementary to each other is the way to describe it. A sort of a real serious blast in my UV chamber, which is got a lot of UV in it, brings a lot of colours in the same direction. And then the colour I did the thing sort of was informed by that, if that makes sense. Look forward to seeing the egg and albumin, or the egg albumin treatment. Yeah, that's in the same finishing video. Yeah, so those were the only questions on the making a 15-inch viola part 6 video. So let's have a look at the 164, which was the video before. Violin making Q&A number 27. So again, yeah, I won't go over all the ones which are just answering questions about the direction of the channel. Of which there were quite a few, but I think there is the odd question in here as well. Hey, it was amazing how many sailors were lurking in there, because I mean, after I mentioned my boat. Andrew Parrish 437. Hi Graham, was that Abranet you were using to sand the viola? Just got some, and it's an absolute game changer. Yes, it was. It's only something that I found out about a year ago, and yeah, a friend of mine, Chris King, had given me some, which kind of I looked at and thought, oh yeah, that's interesting, and then only started using it a few months after that, and it was like, oh right, okay, this is good. And subsequent to that, I've actually bought a load of 600 and P800 in it as well, so which suits the way that I work best. But I mean, it is great because it doesn't clog in the same way that paper tends to clog, because obviously it being a net, you know, the dust goes through it, but it's plastic, isn't it? That's the thing that really upsets me, is it's just another load of plastic, you know, being made and thrown away. So it would be fantastic if there was something which wasn't plastic based that did the same sort of thing. I also tried some of that. Plumbers use something that's not dissimilar, which is, I believe it's like a glass fibre cloth impregnated with I don't know, with some sort of carborundum or something, but a grit, and that is really good. But it just seems to, regardless of, with the finer grades, regardless of what P number they've given it, it seems to be just about at the same level of aggressiveness, which is too much for what I need. So it's a shame they don't do that in a sort of it really in a finer grit. But maybe there is some, but I just couldn't find any. I mean, I got some P800 in it, and it sort of cuts like P350, you know, and leaves marks like P350. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, Stash Manley 4418. Have you ever seen someone carve a bass bar in the top wood itself? I have my own opinion on the idea, but I'm a guitar guy. Is this an accepted practice? This is an interesting one. Generally, it's frowned on because it was done largely in sort of in larger workshops and factories. So many of the sort of German type of cheap fiddles or Czech fiddles had exactly this, and it effectively got a bad name because it was done really quickly. So the thickness of the front on one side of the bass bar would be one thickness, and on the other side it would be massively different. But it was a really fast way of just doing that. I think the problem is to do it accurately takes a lot longer, and you get to the point where to carve it in accurately probably takes as long, if not longer, than carving the front and then fitting one and gluing it in afterwards. And I think the problem is because people associate them with those cheap factory instruments, I think despite the fact there may be arguably some advantages to having a bass bar formed from the same piece of wood in the same way, they've got a bad reputation because of those factory instruments. So I think that kind of rules it out. I wouldn't want to tell someone that I was carving the bass bars into the front. I think it would put people off, I think. DIY Dark Matter. In one line, do what makes you happy, and if others don't like it, then they can bugger off. Do you know what DIY Dark Matter? I think that's kind of probably pretty much how I run this channel anyway, isn't it? Yeah. Hey, I understand it, and thank you for your support. It's massively appreciated, everyone, really is. Right, okay, I think that's pretty much it on the questions that have come in. Yep, it is. So we'll call it a day there. A fairly short Q&A, 18 minutes and 21 seconds at the moment. So thank you all very much indeed for your continued support. Much appreciated. Should you actually like the idea of winning one of my handmade violins, or spending some time in my workshop with me, or winning some tools that I put together as a little bundle, then Patreon might be the place for you. Okay, look after yourselves. Cheers, folks. Bye.